Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Movies Worth Seeing.
Movies not worth seeing.
Well, on this particular
Bottom of the
episode,
barrel. Absolutely fuming this year, it does.
do you need to take a shit or something? What's going on?
How appropriate. Because the contents of this toilet stool looks like the release schedule of 2023. God, it makes my blood to the boiling point.
It's enough to get me to the boiling point.
As you can tell, we're doing the polar opposite of the other episode that we actually just finished recording, which was an episode all about the positivity that came out of this year. And so what is the opposite of positive?
Today's episode is about the worst movies of 2023. They're the movies that made us cringe, the movies that we hated, the movies that we almost walked out of the theater.
That is assuming I even entered the theater in the first place.
Well, like, these are the only ones that I accidentally ended up watching and didn't avoid purely for your enjoyment. I mean, like, there's I wasn't gonna watch Barbie, but I did. I sacrificed myself for your viewing pleasure.
You didn't even try balancing it out with Oppenheimer, the yang to the yin, you know?
Dude,
you
I'm done. I'm done with Nolan. Bro. Tenet,
Okay.
Tenet turned me off of Nolan.
Oh man, just give it a chance.
I know what to expect now with Nolan.
Just give it one more chance, man.
Man,
Come on, just give it one more
can't
chance. No, come on, it's a return to form. And they
just
actually
can't,
pay
dude.
attention to sound design. And
Dude.
it's actually telling a very compelling sort of like character piece, all right? And it had Cold War political thrill into it. That was actually kind of
I
engaging. It's not the top Nolan movie.
I can't do
Come on, man,
3-hour
just-
movies, bro. I
Okay,
can't.
there is that. Okay, well then you'd have to then
Maybe-
include the Martin Scorsese movie into it as well. 3.5 hours.
Yeah,
The
well,
Flower-
I didn't
Killers of the
watch
Flower
that
Moon.
either.
Yeah, me neither.
Let's start off the actual list of stuff that we did watch. You saw this one. I didn't.
Which one?
Ant-Man.
I have not. Nah.
Oh, really?
I
You
not-
didn't watch it?
So yeah, look, I'm just gonna say it up front. I've given up everything Marvel. I've the Across the Spider-Verse was the exception. Not just the superhero fatigue. It's more so just like movie burnouts in general this year.
There's just so much content.
When you have tentpole films after tentpole films not doing so well at the box office, that is what's going to sour the general mood of the average consumer. It's not just the Marvel fans and the DC fans that are coming to the theaters and making box office monies. It's also the average consumer that's not bought into the whole summer blockbuster thing. Like people did not rock up to watch Blue Beetle, Aquaman 2.
They don't
what
care
else?
anymore.
They don't care
People
anymore.
just don't care. We're done.
Exactly.
I just can't believe, like, Ant-Man needs 3 movies.
Yeah, it was always the underdog of like the MCU. It never was the biggest box office draw, and Marvel
the
knew
whole-
that, so they made it smaller stakes. But then they attached Kang the Conqueror into it.
Well, that's the whole thing for me, is like the first Ant-Man was actually a surprise hit that, like, I don't think anyone was expecting to be good. Yeah, it had the generic Marvel villain that was underdeveloped, but you had all this other cool stuff, like a fight scene on a toy train because both characters are shrunken down, or like when they're fighting in this briefcase that's dropping from the sky while playing The Cure. I was like, oh my God, this is unique.
Yeah, it's
This
actually
is
different.
All of that just gets taken away in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, and then it amplifies all the worst parts of Marvel.
Wait, so you've watched it?
No, but I watched enough to know what the problems are.
okay.
Marvel just bombed a lot this year. Ant-Man bombed, Flash bombed, Aquaman 2 bombed. Just
Movie fatigue, not just the superhero
Enough.
thing. I mean, accelerated by the whole superhero movement.
just give it a break. I think Marvel and DC need to like take like 5 years off.
Yeah.
And just don't produce anything for a while. Let us miss you. We can't miss you if you're always there.
Even if Jonathan Majors wasn't guilty, there still has been a big writing issue where they try to treating TV series the same as movies.
It makes
and they were
the
just
audience feel like you're doing homework for the movie.
Exactly. Like, in order to understand that movie, you needed to have watched this, and this series just to understand something that runs for less than 2 hours. That's a hard sell.
Bro, I can't even watch. I struggled to cover like one show. I can only imagine, families with children and stuff like that. They don't have time to watch all these freaking shows and then go to the cinemas and be like, oh, I know everything now. But we could talk and on Marvel and Disney till 2024, which is only a few days away at the time of this recording. I want to move on to another movie that I'd love to talk about because as a white male, I'm not really allowed to talk about it, apparently, according to the internet.
You can see where this is going. You have the floor. You have the mic.
Barbie. That is all. That's all I'm allowed
The less
to say.
said, the better.
It was pretty funny, actually, like releasing the Barbie review this year with my partner because having a woman on the show also saying that it's kind of proves my point that it wasn't just me saying it's because I'm a white guy. It objectively was not a good movie. The other thing about Barbie is now everyone is going to use it as an argument to be like, see, you all say get woke, go broke, but Barbie did it. Barbie did it. And it's like, yeah, because no one knew until it was too late that it was woke.
They had already hooked. They had already.
And you also had Ryan Gosling and Margot Robbie.
Oh, yeah. There's that too.
And you had an intellectual property that kids are going to want to go see.
Yeah, and Barbie's an international figurehead. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not just an American thing.
So you can get away with that. You had two movies going up against each other that were so radically different from each other.
And we didn't know anything about it because of the lack of press tour with the ongoing strikes forbidding them from. So the only way you could find out what the fuss is about is by watching it. And also it's just the intrigue of how do you make a movie about Barbie?
That as
and
well.
A
lot of people were like, all right, how's this going to work?
How's this going to work?
I thought it was a musical.
I thought it was going to be a fish out of water story.
And that would have
been serviceable.
That's the other thing is like, yeah, you get away from all the politics stuff and just look at it for the way the story unfolds. And you're like, this movie is trying to do so much all at once, going in so many different directions. I'm like, just pick one lane. And we could have a movie here. And it's not entertaining about how it's trying to convey its message at all.
Ken is, I guess, an exception, but...
Well, that's why that's a highlight of the movie is because it's the most entertaining part because it's getting across the characters' motivations and struggles through the musical.
Yeah.
And there's like all this fun visual imagery. You got the guys like fighting each other, but like with water guns and and it's fun and funny. But that's the only part. The rest of the movie, there's none of that. All right, moving on. The Killer. I felt The Killer was just disappointing, man. The worst part, another movie where everyone else was like, you just don't get it, man. When you're watching him just sit there, it's a metaphor, man. Look, Michael Fassbender's amazing. He's a great actor. His performance in The Killer is fantastic. Nothing wrong with it. I even said in my review, I was like, actors will study his performance in a movie like The Killer. And it's incredible to watch. It's just a shame that there's not enough going on in the movie for me to actually care. It was dull, bland, and boring. I felt like I was playing a Mortal Kombat like test your might mini game. It actually took me multiple tries to get through the whole movie because I kept falling asleep. It just reminded me of better films from David Fincher that I watched Seven. When I started watching it, even though I've seen Seven multiple times, even though I know how it's going to end and I know every little step of the film, I can't help but watch it. Maybe the problem with The Killer is that David Fincher, he's such a great, innovative director that The Killer, in comparison, like if it was any other director, I would be like, oh, yeah, whatever, it's all right. But because it's David Fincher, I think to myself, what the fuck is this shit?
Even Tarantino, he's got 10 movies in his whole life or something. Like he's saying that like his 10th will be his like very last or something like that. But like you can't expect all 10 of those movies to be of the exact same like high caliber. Some are gonna have to take the hit. Some 100%. Are gonna have to take the fall. And I think that's where you're saying your disappointment came from.
It would have been a fun experiment to watch that movie not knowing David Fincher was the director and see what I thought.
You're going in with a bias that this is a big name movie director.
It's also the same thing that scares me off of watching The Irishman or Killers of the
Scorsese is
Flower
just-
Moon, is I hold Martin Scorsese in such a high regard that I don't want to see this
the downfall.
downfall. Their heart's not in it, or they're just too fucking
They're in the twilight of their years.
cocky
He's in his late
or
80s or something.
arrogant, or they're just too stuck up their own ass to realize that not every fucking thing they do is going to be brilliant.
People just are not going to the cinemas anymore. And I had a watershed moment where the only good Marvel thing to come out, apart from Loki Season 2 and the What If Season 2, is like with the Guardians 3, where it's just like, I know it's good. Like, it was the only good thing to come, Marvel stuff to come out this year. But because of the burnout, I just did not feel compelled to watch it. So just 2023 in general, I just gave up on watching movies, to be honest.
And so has gave up on live.
But yeah, general audience has given up on just the Hollywood machine, which is, you know, the backdrop of why we had so like flops after flops of all these tentpole movies. That's all it takes for the general consumer sentiments to really go down in the dumps. And so leading into 2024 with the SAG strikes and stuff, there's going to be a drought of content. So hopefully the lack of releases in 2024 is going to give Hollywood that reset, maybe a sort of a blank slate. But then I just feel it's going to be a repeat of 2020 COVID, where the lack of content will then convince executives to then overproduce for 2025 onwards, which then would lead to more news articles about overworked film staff and so on. And then we're going to be back to the same old song and dance again. If we want to get even more depressed, we could go into the economy recessions and stuff. But 2023 is not a good year, for movies, for the Hollywood industry in general.
Well,
but, you know,
on that note, I'm going to watch Godzilla -1. So I heard that is really good.
Okay, I will admit there's light at the end of the tunnel. I will give it that.
You know, I think that we need to step away from American movies and branch out more. And that might be the secret.
A good solution.
Because when I was looking at that Rotten Tomatoes top 100, a lot of those movies were international, like different countries. So it made me think maybe that American cinema is just in a real bad state right now, but this represents an opportunity for the other countries to avoid those pitfalls by not going down those routes of political virtue signaling and superhero tired franchises being resurrected because they don't have those franchises to rely on, so they have to be more creative. We need to look at this year as a giant wake-up call to Hollywood. It took a couple of years, but it is catching up to them. And that is how I'm looking into 2024. But we are definitely going to look at like movies coming out in 2024.
Or the lack of movies. I'm looking forward to the lack of movies in 2024 because it gives that gap. Gives
me time to catch up.
Yes. Well, not just to catch up, but also, the absence makes the heart grow fonder. Give us time to, miss stuff.
Yeah, man. So that is the worst movies of 2023 covered. If you enjoyed the show, please like, share, and subscribe. And leave us a review if you enjoyed the podcast. And that is me, guys.
Yeah. So ends a sour year, and so ends a sour episode on a sour note. And to wash that taste away from your taste buds, watch the polar opposite, the antithesis of this episode. And I think that corner over there, the eye icon for good movies of this year, because there actually are positive sun rays at the end of the tunnel. That is 2023, despite all the SAG strikes and everything. There were good stuff that came out this year. And now that we have let out all this negative sentiments, we can release our shoulders. It's just, it feels like a huge weight has been lifted. My heart feels lighter as well. So
like
looking forward to less movies. Yeah.
It's like the moment when you admit like you're an alcoholic, like,
It's just good to just let it out,
I need a shot after that.
So, Happy New Year, everyone.